I think that it's almost like double jeopardy. That if we do indeed believe that the hijab is a sign, and many people do, of gender bias, of orthodoxy, of oppression, of inequality, then why punish the girls a second time around by denying them school access on the basis of it?
You're absolutely right. You see, these are social changes which must be brought about over a period of time. You can't issue an edict that we ban the hijab from today. Effectively, what you're doing is you're banning the women from coming to uh, study.
But do you think the petitioners have made a legal error in asking the court to decide this on the basis of what the Quran may or may not say? Because that is effectively what the court had to decide. So I'm very
No,
struck by the fact that you say it was parts of it are progressive, the conclusion or the outcome is regressive. Do you think that this should never have gone into whether the hijab is an essential religious practice or not?
no. I don't think so. They could have argued that, in a case you can always raise alternative pleas. And it's not as if the plea has not been raised that it is a social practice, it is, something with freedom of conscience. All these pleas have been raised, but they've been sort of brushed right that we're dealing with the main thing they said. You see, my worry with this judgment is that as if these girls were on trial. They were not.
Yeah.
You see, that is, if you are in a case deciding something which is going to have great social impact, and this judgment is going to have a social impact not only in Karnataka but the rest of the country also. Now, do you want, on one hand, we say under Article 21A, though even earlier under Article 21, the courts have always read the right of education to be part of freedom, the right to life. Now you have an Article 21A which says, yes, it is a right, maybe till 14 years, and then thereafter also. Now, if it is a right, and there's a conflict between two rights, assuming that it's not an essential part of a life, I think what should have been given, had been put on a higher pedestal is the right to education.
Absolutely.
They have a
But
right to education. Sorry.
you said something, two very important things. You said that the judgment treats the girls as if they were on trial, and you also say that the right to education should have been foregrounded. Both are very important points. But you said at the beginning that the verdict brushed aside or skirted around certain other key issues. What are those issues?
One of this is the main issue. You see, this is one of the main issues. You are deciding, even if it is, this is not a this is not a litigation, adversarial sort of litigation. You're deciding the rights. You don't have to be very technical, even if it is not directly raised this point. Even if it is indirectly raised, if I was a judge, I would definitely deal with it. See, the mindset of the court when it says that uniform is essential. I agree. In schools, etc., uniform is required. But then they say, if you don't have a uniform, it leads to
Public disorder. There's a talk
disorder.
about
Public disorder
it's
is
in a separate
mind-boggling.
part. Yeah.
No, I find it mind-boggling how could if two people come in different dresses, how does it become a public disorder thing? Public disorder is not in the dress. Public disorder is in the minds of those. That leads to public disorder who cannot tolerate a particular type of dress. You see, you can't put the culprits on a pedestal and the victims are made to face trial. It's basically like that. They came to court saying that maybe that should not have been the main argument. Maybe the religious belief is such that that was the main argument, that it is the essential part of a religion. Assuming that is not correct, I personally would agree that it may or may not be. I've not studied this in very great detail. But I'm surprised that this High Court relies upon the opening lines from a young girl's school dissertation where she described what the hijab is. That's where the judgment starts from. We need something much greater depth to understand what is the hijab. As I said, I am not in favor of the hijab. But we have to face it that hijab today is almost linked to Islam. And it's not only in
Yeah,
Islamic
but
context.
maybe not at the level of religion, but at the level of culture or social practice, as you said, or identity issues for a
And
younger
identity,
generation. Yeah.
yeah, identity issues. I mean, and it's the world over. And hijab is being worn, I think, other than France, which totally says no, almost all other countries tolerate or allow the hijab. Why say tolerate, but allow the hijab.